Okay, hi everyone. My name's Sami. This is my project, the Anti-Social Garden for the Mount Lehman community in Abbotsford, BC. So the site is located on the ancestral and unceded territory of the Musqueam First Nations and the Sumas First Nations. Just to get that stated at the beginning, and here you can see Abbotsford, but Mount Lehman is all the way up by the river in the beautiful countryside. You can see some of the elements here. We're surrounded by a lot of wineries, a lot of barns, a lot of greenhouses, and adjacent to the site that I'm working on, we have a bright red fire hall. This is really a hub for the community. We have a Canada Post, there's a library up here. It doesn't look like much, but it really is a community zone for this community. Here are the boundaries of my site. There's a big row of super tall skyscraping Western red cedars. And I really wanted to use these photos to show how the community, how old it is. This was the first post office on my site, erected in 1884. And so with all this in mind, I realized that people who live out here don't necessarily need better access to green space, but living out here can be pretty isolating, especially during a pandemic. That is especially the case. And so the health concern that I want to focus on was loneliness. And so it has been proven that long-lasting loneliness is ranked as high a mortality factor as smoking. It sends misleading hormone signals to your brain and reorganizes the chemical molecules that govern behavior. And it's so dangerous because it can cause or exacerbate certain diseases like high blood pressure, neurodegenerative diseases, Alzheimer's, and heart disease. And so here's a snapshot of me kind of working through those issues, especially trying to understand the community and the goals that they have. And something to note here is that the demographic has the highest percentage being seniors and the second highest being children. And so some of the ways that I wanted to work through these health risks and things was including a risky play area, which has been shown to help children overcome social challenges, anxiety, and depression. And in general, I really wanted to try my best to create gathering spaces that encourage involvement and mixing of age groups. Oops. Okay, so the senses I wanted to focus on mostly were sight, taste, touch, and smell. I wanted the site to visually pull people in and excite them with bright colors and textures that encourage play, and tastes and smells that encourage activities like wine tasting, which is a really big tourist attraction for the area and I think would be attractive to many young adults, middle-aged people, and seniors. And through the iterative process I went through, I started working out through curvilinear forms and long winding paths to really encourage that physical activity and combat some of those health issues. And I also worked through some of these program elements and how to intertwine the elements to mix different age groups. And so in terms of programming, these are some of the ones I wanted to include in my final design. The first being a reflexology path, which has been shown to decrease blood pressure in elderly people, and it's also really fun for children to run on and interact with. And I also wanted to have versatile gathering spaces that the community, they already do this in their town hall, but they like to have wine tastings, barbecues, and movie nights. So having versatile spaces for that. And it was crucial that I include spaces that foster the sense of being alone together, because the last thing some anxious and lonely people want is prolonged exposure to a big group of people. And lastly, again, trying to mix age groups. And so some of the ways I wanted to try to mix those was by including playful elements throughout the entire site instead of just in one area. So things like stepping stones and swings, I wanted to try to kind of bring those through the whole site. And so my final design proposal includes this designated play, but there are the playful elements throughout the whole site. And there's a bench and pergola, so parents and elderly people can sit there and hang out. And then there's a more open gathering space with a pergola this connected to a more enclosed gathering space on the other side, then separated by this swale that kids can jump on and play alongside on the lawn. And the gathering spaces have actually kind of been inspired by bunches of grapes on a vine to kind of bring back that winery inspiration. The bioswale on the edge is now connected to this swale. This swale on the edge is actually existing, but to add the stream to the center, that would kind of use the overflow from the swale. And then the reflexology zone is at the top here, connected to this swale a little bit, and it's next to this lookout at the top of this berm that is on here and down here as well. So in this section, I want to show the sort of spatial experiences of these shrub areas and how they divide these gathering spaces. And I made sure to choose lots of bright red colors in my planting selections to riff off that bright red fire hall. And also here you can really see how tall these cedars are. I think this is even an underestimate of how big they are. And in this section, I want to bring your attention over to this visual connection here between these gathering zones and this play area here. And then here again, you can see these kids jumping over this bioswale. And I've also added some pops of yellow with this planting here that's by the reflexology zone, so that they can evoke that sense of calm. And over the big play area, we have these different big leafy plants with lots of texture like this fern or the thick leather rhododendron or the like more spiky dark maroon berberis. And the two specimen trees at the edge here engage the viewer from when you come around this path right from the beginning, and they're right over here. In the exploded view, I just want to pull out quickly some of the materials, like rosewood, wine barrel inspired materials. I thought it would be fun if the wine barrels were like the tops of the stepping stones. And lots of rocks, which there are already lots of rocks existing on the site, so they can be borrowed from that. And again, lots of bright red and colors and textures. So here you can see the concentration of color of the foliage. Along the internal pathway here, I wanted to have a kind of green corridor that blends into the colors of the zones at the transitions. And then you can also see this sort of concentration of yellow over here by the reflexology zone. I'm in no way a skilled hand drawer, but I tried to use hand drawing for every element here, and I think the perspectives especially turned out pretty well. I would love some feedback though on how to improve them, but I really wanted to show these shrubs come to life, and so you can get a sense of the place and the colors and the textures. And again, here you can see this visual relationship between this wine tasting area and the kid play zone over here. And I think this is my favorite space. The reason we have, again, a visual relationship with this lookout, so you never really feel like you're alone, even when you're up here. And yeah, again, it's a swing, so that playful touch. And I personally just love the way that the plants work in this area and the stream, how it kind of peeks in, and your views to the mountains are slightly exposed in this area as well. And that's my project. Thank you guys so much for listening.